Whenever the topic of AI comes up, the conversation almost always splits right down the middle. It tends to fall into two very familiar, very dramatic camps.
So, on one hand, you've got this incredible dream, right? A perfect utopia where AI ends disease, gets rid of work, and solves all of humanity's biggest problems. And on the other hand, you've got the Hollywood nightmare. Killer robots, total surveillance, basically Skynet going live. It's either our savior or our doom. But what if that whole debate is missing the point entirely?
What if the most dangerous thing about AI isn't the obvious scary stuff we see in movies? What if the real threat is actually wrapped up in all the good things, all the things we think we want from it?
And that leads us to a really different way of thinking about all this. An idea called pessimo-optimism. And honestly, it might just be the key to understanding the hidden danger of our own best intentions. I mean, check out this quote from researcher Forrest Moratti. He says, "I'm actually more worried about the good things of AI than the bad things. The real concern isn't some evil robot army. It's the amazing benefits we're all chasing that could, ironically, be our undoing."
So what does that mean, pessimo-optimism? Well, it's not about being negative. It's about being realistic. It's about having the mental flexibility to hold two totally opposite ideas in your head at once, that AI can bring us these incredible gifts and, at the same time, unleash disastrous consequences, often from the exact same feature.
And this gets to the absolute heart of the problem. Think about it. Technology, at its core, is designed to do one thing: alleviate suffering, make things easier, faster, less painful. But humanity's engine for growth, for progress, for meaning, has always been the complete opposite. We flourish through struggle. We get stronger and wiser by overcoming challenges. So you see the conflict. The two are pulling in completely different directions.
Okay, let's look at a real-world example to see how this plays out. The invention of birth control. It was an absolutely marvelous benefit, right? It liberated women to participate in society in ways that were unthinkable before. But if you look at it through this pessimo-optimist lens, that amazing good thing also had unforeseen consequences. The argument is that it had this cascade effect, disrupting some of the foundational logic our civilization was built on. It's just a really powerful example of how a wonderful solution can create incredibly complex, unpredictable new problems down the line.
All right, so this brings us to the big question. What's the real cost of making everything so darn easy? Well, it's the destruction of something called scarcity. And it turns out scarcity is the very thing that gives so many of our experiences their value and their meaning.
Think about music for a second. A little over a century ago, hearing a live orchestra, that was a rare, maybe once-in-a-lifetime event. It was a huge deal. Then technology made it ownable, then portable, and eventually, with streaming, infinite. With every single step, the scarcity vanished, and you could argue that the emotional weight of the experience got a little lighter, too. And now? Now AI can generate any song you can possibly imagine on demand. The scarcity is totally gone. But you have to ask, what else did we lose along the way?
I mean, this is the basic blueprint for how we humans find meaning, right? A challenge appears, you suffer a bit, you struggle to figure it out. Through that struggle, you build skills, you gain wisdom, you become more resilient. And then finally, you achieve something that actually feels meaningful. That struggle isn't a bug in the system, it's the entire feature. That's where all the value is created.
And this is where AI throws a massive wrench in the works. It offers a shortcut. It promises the result without the process, the accomplishment without the struggle. But in doing that, it completely bypasses the most important parts, the struggle and the development. It's like getting the trophy without ever playing the game. It makes the achievement feel hollow. And look, this isn't just some abstract philosophical debate. This erosion of meaning is leading us right now directly toward two massive, very real society-wide crises. We're talking about a potential collapse of shared reality and a collapse of our entire economic system. The first one is something evolutionary biologist Brett Weinstein calls the Cartesian crisis. And man, this one is a doozy. This is the point where our very ability to agree on what's real just shatters. Just try to picture it, a world so flooded with AI-generated video, audio, and text that is absolutely 100% indistinguishable from reality. How do we trust any evidence anymore? How can we agree on basic facts?
The end result isn't just that we're confused, it's that we become so cynical that we can't believe anything. Shared reality just collapses.
Okay, and the second major crisis is what Moretti calls the economic singularity. And no, this isn't just about robots taking our jobs, it's way bigger, way more fundamental than that.
You have to remember, our entire economic system is basically a bet on the future. It's built on the idea that we'll always find new ways to be more efficient, to create more value, to grow. But what happens when AI makes that quest for efficiency so good that it becomes essentially free? The financial incentive to innovate could just evaporate. And when that happens, the entire system, which is based on the value of that growth, just breaks. And unlike the Industrial Revolution, there's no new frontier for human labor to escape to.
All right, I know, that all sounds incredibly bleak. It's a lot. But there is a weird, kind of chaotic glimmer of hope in all of this. And it's the wild idea that the system might just collapse under its own weight. It's this idea called the complexity paradox. Think of it like two lines on a graph moving in opposite directions. On one line, the complexity of our technology is shooting upwards, exponentially. But on the other line, the very same technology is degrading our human competence, our attention spans, our critical thinking, our ability to cooperate. The gap between those two lines is the problem. So here's the potential chain of events. On one side, you've got these AIs that need these insanely complex global supply chains and human cooperation just to exist. But at the very same time, that same tech is making us less focused, less intelligent, less willing to cooperate. See where this is going? Eventually, we could hit a tipping point where we are simply no longer smart enough to maintain the very technology we created, and the system just collapses under its own complexity.
And what happens then? A forced reset. A regression to a much simpler state of being. You could call it a kind of Amish 2.0, where society is forced to abandon this hyper-complex tech it just can't sustain anymore. Now, it would be chaotic and incredibly disruptive, for sure, but it might just be the thing that saves us from the worst-case scenarios we've built for ourselves. So that's the final, massive question hanging over all of this. If we get that reset, if the system breaks and we get a second chance, will we have learned anything at all? Will we have gained the wisdom to choose a different path, one that values struggle and meaning and what it really means to be human over the seductive, easy promise of a perfect world?